I teach 7th grade, they are still performing on the 4th grade level.
The kids are struggling. They can barely read, they're being disrespectful, and they're making teachers quit in droves. My mom said I had the rights to beat your ass.
And this is one of the reasons why I quit. After a degree, after clinicals, after 5 years of teaching, one of those reasons is why I quit.
That right there, definitely a parenting issue and cultural issue, to the point where you have students saying, oh, my mother said I have the right to beat your ass, to a teacher, to an adult who's supposed to be leading you. See, a lot of these parents, we're going to get into that in another video, but a lot of these parents really think that school is just daycare, and that when the child comes home, there's nothing that the parent needs to be doing to further their education.
And what had happened was I had a difficult student who he would come in high, he would sleep all class period, wrote him up, admin did absolutely nothing. To a point to where some admin were deleting my referrals, deleting them.
See, and that's a big difference, because when I was in high school, it was common for students to come into school high, whether it be like whatever type of substance they were coming in high or being disrespectful. They were gone. They were sent to the bad school and for the county. Like, they were either expelled or sent away to the bad school, but the bad students always were made an example of. But I don't think that's happening anymore.
And my last straw was the same kid. We were about to read. The audio was for 10 minutes and 16 seconds. 10 minutes and 16 seconds, I was asking students to put their phone away. And I kept asking him, and he wouldn't oblige. And he turns around to me, and he says, you annoying as. That day, I put in all my sick time. I put my 2 weeks in. I walked out. I ain't been back since. My stuff's still sitting in that desk.
That's not funny that it happened to her, but it's just like, I can't even, what? It's something I can't even comprehend. If it's gotten to the point where not even admin is doing anything about it, it's no wonder why a lot of these teachers are quitting in droves.
I'm walking right out the door. I won't ever be back.
And that's just, there's more of this that's going on, of teachers just walking out. But do you know how much abuse that teacher has to be going through in order for you to just get up and leave your job? You know how long the abuse has been going on, the disrespect from the students, to where teachers just feel helpless.
I don't know who you people think you are, but you don't treat anybody like this. Not funny.
He's fed up, and it's sad because you hear the students in the back snickering as if nothing's gone wrong. I always heard that there's been an issue going on in public school, especially since COVID times. A lot of the students have been more disrespectful, but I didn't know it was this bad, and I didn't know it got to the point where you actually have students assaulting teachers. Like, obviously, I can't show y'all the students assaulting the teachers, but these articles I found, sincerely hope he gets the help he needs. Teacher talks to KHOU about getting punched in the face by student. This teacher got punched in the face by a student. This was 9 months ago. Oh.
Don't you come cry. Enough is again.
I'm so surprised. Well, actually, I'm not surprised by the amount of support that are in the comments for that teacher. I'm not saying whether I support what that teacher has done or not, so don't even be looking for me to say anything like that. All I know is that teachers are human beings, and a lot of times people forget that. For someone to be pushed to the point of yelling like that in a professional setting, like his entire livelihood, his money, his dignity was on the line, and he threw it all out the window. That means something. Either that guy is not very mentally stable, which I don't know him, but from what I've seen, the fact that he's in that classroom tells me that he was extremely and utterly disrespected.
Yep. For far too long. Like I was mentioning before, it takes a lot for a teacher to do that. They're not just like, you know what you're getting yourself into when you're teaching, but you don't expect what's been happening the past few years. That's what you don't expect, and that's what you don't deserve. I'm surprised that I'm glad the teacher didn't assault nobody, but it's clear the teacher's out here throwing desks that he was completely fed up.
And another thing I want you all to notice is how quiet the entire class is whenever that teacher is doing what he's doing. It's sad that it had to come to that.
Yeah, and I think she pointed out a good point, that the class was silent, because if the class was panicking, to me, that tells me that, yeah, the teacher's clearly having a mental breakdown. But the fact that the class is silent, they're almost aware of how that teacher's being treated and aware that his actions are correlated to how he's been treated the past few months or whatever it has been.
And even with me sometimes, as an assistant principal, that students are just not listening. They can be extremely disrespectful, and this is not all of them. I'm not going to give a blanket statement because there are some amazing kids out there, but there are some students who have learned to treat adults this way because they do that at home, and they think that it's going to translate well with a stranger or someone that they just met, like a teacher. But I want to know what your thoughts are.
A lot of this falls right back to the home, and either A, these students are talking to their parents like that and the parents don't care, or B, there is abuse going on at home. There is something is going on with the child to the point where they're acting out at school. The teachers are fed up, and here's another teacher elaborating on how mean the students have actually become.
Do you honestly believe that these teachers are quitting their job 2 weeks into the school year because they're not getting paid enough, or because the politics that they're dealing with from outside of the classroom is too much to handle? No, that's not the reason. The reason why they're quitting is because these kids are mean, and they're making the classroom a war zone, and they're getting zero support from parents at home and from admin on their campus. This 100% stems from the stuff that they have to deal with day in and day out from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. inside their classroom. It's the stuff that you have to deal with inside your classroom that makes you burn out and makes you never want to come back. I understand that so many of our kids are dealing with rough lives at home and are dealing with trauma, dealing with mental illness, dealing with learning disabilities. All of those things make it difficult to thrive in school, and I understand that. But the problem is that all of those things are no reason to treat other human beings like a piece of garbage.
There hasn't been much change in how well British children are doing at school. In a 2019 report by the education coalition Fair Education Alliance, pupils from disadvantaged backgrounds in the UK lagged their peers by more than 8 months in reading, writing and maths by age 11.
Children from persistently disadvantaged backgrounds are 22 months behind by the time they finish their school career. Small progress has been made in helping some children almost beat the odds and overcome the barriers that face them, but the systemic underlying factors of our education system still remain, which mean we're not ever reaching the most persistently disadvantaged.
So what are the contributing factors of education inequality among children? According to UNICEF, a child's educational progress is linked to their family background. What kind of jobs the parents have, or whether the child is a first-generation immigrant, can affect the likelihood of them continuing into higher education. Inequality between genders is also apparent from a young age and tends to grow as children get older. Reading abilities among girls are generally better than boys by the age of 9, and in turn that discrepancy is more likely to continue in education beyond secondary school. And finally, which school you go to can have a significant impact on your academic performance. In many countries, the debate on inequality in education is seen through the prism of private schools versus state schools. The UK is home to some very famous private schools like Eton College and Harrow School behind me. Of the 55 British Prime Ministers, nearly half were educated at just these two schools, along with prominent actors, writers, scientists and royalty from across the world. To compare, the entire state school education in England of a young person starting from nursery costs an average of around $96,000. The annual school fees at Harrow, however, costs around $56,000 for just 1 year of a child's tuition. But even that is dwarfed by private schools in Switzerland, such as La Rose, which cost more than $135,000 per year. Many believe that private education is at the root of inequality and reduces the chances for those students who attend state schools. The statistics tell us that educational privilege provides significant advantages and opens many doors. In the UK, nearly a third of members of parliament, 2/3 of the country's top doctors, and 74% of judges were privately educated. The exam results also reflect the disparity. In 2019, 45.7% of students at private schools in the UK got A* or A's in their final year exams, compared to the national average of 25.5%.
He's gone, Kuiper.